The Economic Development and Marketing Committee meeting at, what time is it, 6:30? Are we on time?
Yep, 6:30.
Computer's on?
Yep.
Like, consider the approval of the minutes of the regular Economic Development and Marketing Committee held on April 24th, 2018.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Like to discuss the Suburban Land Bank Development Authority. Patrick has a presentation with Mr. Russ Ryden. Is this correct?
Yes, just a short one. We've got a guest here today, Russ Ryden. We've been talking to Russ for, I don't know, it's probably been close to a year now. It seems like back and forth. He's been in town a couple times. He actually met with the Tinley Center. He came down. There's a lot of vacancies that are over there, and we've been talking about what we could do with the land bank, and it's just another tool for economic development. One of the things that they can do, though, is people can donate their properties to the land bank if they're behind on taxes, or if we see any vacated properties, land bank can also take those over and help bring them back to life. They can take over for brownfields as well. But it's something that they've been doing for quite some time now, actually since, was it 2012? I did follow up with one of our neighboring communities that's on the board. I think it was Oak Forest, and they said it is a pretty good deal. It's not really any cost to the village itself, but it's something, like I said, it's another tool in the toolbox that we can use. The main thing that we could help out, or they could help us out with, is for people that have the abandoned properties and are not really taking care of them right now. They can help fill those properties for us. It is something I talked to Douglas about that we ourselves could do, but right now we don't really have the staff to try to take that on. So some of these properties, but it's something that Russ has expertise in. If Russ wants to come up and talk a little bit about what you guys do on some of your projects.
Sure. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
What the South Suburban Land Bank does is basically we deal with distressed properties throughout the Southland. So our footprint is basically from Joliet on the west edge all the way to the Indiana border, like Lansing and that area, Sauk Village on the east. Basically, all we do and all we concentrate on is distressed properties. In South Cook, a couple years ago, that was a lot of residential stuff, a lot of vacancies, particularly in some of our harder hit areas. Now we're dealing more with the commercial properties because of the real estate tax situation. I think we're all aware that Cook County has obnoxiously high real estate taxes, especially on commercial properties. And what ends up happening is a lot of those properties end up coming to us in some form because we have the ability to clear back taxes and clear title. So a lot of what we do is acquire properties, kind of scrub the title, clear taxes, and then get those properties back to a marketable state, and then get that back on the private market to a buyer, whether it's a homeowner or a developer or a business or whoever. We deal with the entire spectrum of types of properties, from polluted vacant land to houses to warehouses, office buildings, you name it. We had a marina for a number of years that we ran in Blue Island. But our specialty is really helping out where there's distressed properties. And the way we're structured is we're basically a municipal agency, intergovernmental agency, where each of our members, we have about 23 or 24 right now, I think. They all sign an intergovernmental agreement. It's all the same agreement. And they assign a board member to our board. That board member then works with myself and our staff to figure out where we're needed and what we need to do in each community. That board member is also basically a veto on our board, because the way we're structured is any transaction, if we did something in Tinley Park, I can't do anything unless my board member from that community is in agreement. So we have to cooperate and work together to figure out, what's best, what makes sense, where you want us working, where you don't want us working. And to the point of where we may have a property and it may be on the market, say we have one of our realtors listing it, we get an offer in, that offer is then discussed with the village, and we say, is this something that you guys like? You like this buyer? If not, we move on. If it is, then we close and kind of work on the next project. As Patrick said, there's no cost to the village at all. There's no fees, no dues, anything like that. From a legal standpoint, we are set up completely independently, financially, legally. We have our own insurance, we have our own payrolls, everything like that. So it provides a lot of insulation from for the village, because basically you have control over these properties through us, but you also don't have the liabilities because you're not holding title, you're not outlaying money unless you want to, you're not really having much involvement other than the directing us to what, you know, the final outcome will be. So it's not a lot of downside. You know, be happy to talk to any of our board members, any of our communities. I think we're pretty effective in what we do, and a lot of what we do is predicated on the villages we work with and having an active partner. So the more active the village is, the more we do there, usually. But like I said before, we only work on what you want us to work on. So if it's commercial properties in a specific area, that's fine. We'll target those and work on those. If it's something different, then we will target whatever you want us to. I'll pause there for a second just for questions. And
Michael, do you have a question?
You
That
answered
means.
a lot of, you answered a lot of them in your speech.
Yeah, he did.
I read through the materials, and there's still quite a few questions that
Sure.
I have. You say that we're insulated from liability.
yes.
How does that work? So say we took over as a member of this cooperative property, and that property had storage tanks with, you know, nuclear waste in it. Whose liability is it?
It becomes ours.
Yours
But
being
the
the
village-
cooperative, or yours being a separate entity?
Separate entity. We're completely legally separated. So if
But we're voting members. We want you to
Yeah.
buy this, but we're not part of it.
yeah, basically, yes. Yeah. You direct us, but the village does not have any liability. You're not on the hook for anything.
Huh.
And you can get out of the agreement anytime you want, basically, too. There's an out clause, and if someone really wants out, we'll just let them out. I mean, there's no, and if your council wants to review it, there's no tie-in with the village. You don't provide any backstop or anything like that to us, unless, of course, you want to, but nobody's wanted to do that. With good reason, though. It's insulation, it's protection. We've got our own insurance. We protect the properties and protect our communities that way. But you have control, but you don't have title or any of the kind of legal issues you would have with control if something goes wrong.
Right. You're not the guy holding the bag for the nuclear waste site.
Yeah, if there was nuclear waste, it would come to us, it would stop at us. If the village wanted to step in at some point for whatever reason, you could, but if you said, we don't want any part of that, you have no legal responsibility to do anything with any of our properties or anything with
Okay.
us.
The other thing you said was that we don't have to contribute anything, there's no fees or dues or?
Correct, yes.
So I saw $2 million in your materials I guess that's the money that you have to work with?
We were, a couple years ago, our original funding came through grants from the Attorney General's office. There was a mortgage foreclosure settlement that many of the states got. Illinois got a chunk of that, and they did a competition for funding, essentially. And we were just starting at the time, so we applied for that. Our seed funding came from the Attorney General's grant. That grant is winding down. It's actually, I'm writing the last closeout reports for that grant. This morning I was. So we are self-funded now. We generate revenue from property sales, from leasing, other activities, fees and things like that we collect. which limits us because we don't have, millions and millions of dollars to do things all the time. But we also don't get tax money or anything. We get grants occasionally, but we don't have like a constant stream of funds that come in from any source. So everything we do is self-funded now.
So it's income off the properties that you have in your portfolio or whatever that's
Yeah,
that's funding you?
yes.
And nothing's coming from the members that are,
Nope. No, not unless they want to, and I can give you, I know Patrick talked to Oak Forest. Oak Forest was one of the communities that's actually put in money, not to us, not to fund anything we're doing organizationally, but specific properties in town that they've put out money they had in their budget and they wanted to buy. They didn't want to hold it, but they wanted to buy and control it. So we hold it for them, cut the grass, do whatever, they need us to do. And then when a sale comes, it's already prearranged on how that split would happen. But generally, all the money, or most of it's going to go back to the village when those properties get sold, and then we recover our costs essentially.
is it limited to just the south suburban area? I mean, it sounds like it goes from Dalton all the way to like Joliet.
Yeah, we're sort of limited, I guess, by our intergovernmental agreement, but we extend Cook County, Will County, and Kankakee County, actually, and our IGA allows us to expand. We're one of the only land banks in the state, and we were the first ones, so we've had a lot of interest from other areas, west suburbs, north suburbs, that have said, how can we do this? We don't have funding to be able to create this ourselves, but we want to take advantage of some of these tools that you can offer. So our board has been pretty flexible on expanding. Originally, like Joliet wasn't part of the original kind of plan, but they came to us and said, hey, this is something we'd like to participate. So we opted them in and expanded to include Joliet. We expanded to include Kankakee. So we have some loose geographic
Right.
boundaries, I guess, but not real solid.
Okay, my last question is control.
Yes.
Are we gonna lose control if the property's bought through you? I mean, say a liquor store, dance club comes in. I mean, will we be able to have that? Besides our zoning and everything else?
Yeah, no, it's a good
You get what I'm
question. Because,
saying?
you keep all your zoning. Nothing we do bypasses anything in permitting. If we sell to somebody wants to build a strip club, say, they still have to come to the village for everything that anyone else would come to the village for if you're building a project like that.
Would we have control as, like an owner would still? I mean, do we have
Yes,
veto power on?
because the way our board is structured, the board member, anything we do, any sale, anything like that, has to be approved by either our internal committee, our executive committee, or our full board. So our full board has delegated power to the executive committee, and then further to basically myself and the representative from whichever municipality we're working with. If it's a property that's of, let's say, minimal cost, or not something where we think we need to go to our full board for approval, or we're getting a loan or something like that, generally those are approved internally by myself and the village representative. If the village representative says no, I can't move it forward. It requires both of us to, so it would then have to go to our board, where our board is other municipal representatives who don't want to step on other folks' toes, basically, and dictate to Tinley Park, someone from Park Forest isn't going to tell Tinley Park what to do, so
Because then we may do it to them.
Yeah.
So we don't have a veto, but.
You have a
kind of
veto, basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can't advance it at all myself. I don't have the authority to just approve whatever I want. I have to have cooperation with that municipality. So if I get that, then we don't need to bring it to my board, and it generally wouldn't go to your board again unless you were putting some funding or needed to approve it for some other reason. But when you're signed up and when it's operating, we would acquire the property, we would get the approval of the local municipality. As soon as that's done, we go ahead with it and just make it happen. And then when we sell, same thing. We have to have approval to sell, so I can't just sell to whoever I want. And if we get, a strip club comes in and wants to buy this piece of land, and you say, we don't want a strip club, we don't do the strip club. We move on to the next buyer and just try and figure something else out. But yes, you have the ultimate control of the property because the representative from the village will always have the say in what happens. But I would caution you, we do have several municipalities who don't, I guess, participate as much, and sometimes their staff person leaves or the board member leaves or whatever, and they don't reassign someone. And if you don't assign a board member, it falls back onto our board then, and then our board would have to approve something, in lieu of that local representative. So just to give you an example, today, University Park is a member. We have a townhouse we're selling to an owner-occupant. But they don't have they're members, but they have not put a new board, their previous board person left, and they didn't reassign it to somebody else. So I've got to go to my board chair and get things approved with the board chair that way until they assign a new member. But that's kind of on them. We can't control that because that's a council action from their part. And I don't know why they do or don't do it, but that would be the only case where you would not have control. But as long as you have a board member.
You'd probably give them notice and a chance to
Yes.
get a board member if they needed to.
Absolutely, yeah. And the ones that don't have board members currently are not very active, so we don't really do much in those communities anyway.
I have no
Yeah.
further questions. You?
No, I do not have any further questions. Thank you, Mr. Wright, I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Based on a lack of another trustee on our committee, as well as I have not discussed this with the mayor, I'd like to table this for further discussion at another time. I'd like to make a motion to table.
I guess second.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just one quick question, Pat.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the pipeline that we got to move quick on this or anything? But it sounds, from what I can tell, like I'm not seeing any downside, but,
No, there's a couple that are really interested, like over in the Tinley Center, but other than that.
okay.
My cousin's that condo, what
Yeah.
we mentioned last time,
Yeah,
that
no,
one
it's-
as well. And we really don't have a commission right now as well, so we're like, this is a bad timing, essentially, so.
But it sounds, you did a real nice presentation.
Thank
It
you.
sounds like a win-win for the village.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're going to be around, so, take your time, and if it works out right, we'll be happy to have you.
Great.
Thanks.
Item number 4, discuss two-minute truck, 6B reclassification request.
Okay, 2 minute in a truck. Paul Brown, again, been talking for quite some time now, maybe close to a year, and they're actually interested in a 7420 Duvan Drive. If you guys know the Duvan Drive area, it's pretty hit or miss over there. They're looking to do, actually bring 60 to 90 jobs to Tinley Park. They're wanting to combine 3 of their different locations into a 23,000 square foot building and invest close to $1 million. For this one, it is a 6B. Currently, the building has a 6B on it, so we're looking for a renewal on it, but also to add a 6B to the empty lot. When it comes to the assessment, it's not going to change anything because it's a vacant lot anyway, so it's already assessed at 10%. So really, they're just asking to keep that assessment the same and also keep the assessment the same on the building that they're in. And like I said, bring in 60 to 90 jobs to the area, so I think it'd be a pretty good deal to get something over there in Duvan Drive. And also, Paul is here if you guys have any questions. As far as the incentive policy checklist, though, it does meet the B.8, which is a target development area, and also the capital investment side of things. And again, it will not create any kind of burden for the village itself. And it's also inside of our TIF district, and that's what qualifies them to ask because it's a designated area. But Paul's here if you've got any questions for him, or if you want to talk about the company at all. I know Dave likes
I'm
them.
familiar
He's
with
used them quite a
company.
bit.
I have. Several times.
I think they're great.
Do you want to just say something?
Just
real
come and
quick?
say hi.
Yeah, sure.
So thanks for taking the time to meet with me. Again, my name is Paul Brown. I'm a franchise owner of 2 Men and a Truck. We're a franchise moving company. Franchises in general, we have 400 locations. We've been in business for 30 years. We've done 7 million moves. I have locations myself in Carroll Stream, Elmhurst, Chicago, Orland Park, and Shorewood. So I'm looking at this property here in Tinley to combine my locations from Chicago, Orland Park, and Shorewood into one location. As Patrick mentioned, we have, between those 3 locations, there's 60 to 90 employees. The property that we're looking at, as Patrick mentioned, is a 23,000 square foot building. Next to it is a vacant lot, which we would develop into a parking lot. And we'd add the water detention that's necessary, so there's a pretty big price tag on doing that. But again, as Patrick mentioned, there's an existing 6B on the property. We're just looking to get that renewed. It's got a few years left on it, but you know, we're looking to continue that 6B on the existing property and the new one, correct?
Super. We're looking forward to stealing a business from Orland Park. Thank you.
I just, real quick, the 6B continuation, are they just going to pick up where the other people left off, or will it start a new 6B, or how will that work?
No, it'll be a continuation. Oh, do you want to answer it?
I can speak to the 6B. I'm a legal representation for Mr. Brown and do incentive work in Cook County.
That explains the suit.
So, thank you. So the 6B is it runs with the land. So even though Mr. Brown's going to be coming in and purchasing the property, the 6B is transferable to him, and he will take on pick up where the 6B left off. And it's currently in the 7th year of the incentive, of a 12-year incentive. So he will step into the shoes of the current 6B, the current owner right now. So yeah, that's how that will work.
Any issues with the new prevailing wage ordinance that they've got in there?
No.
Does that apply to the new person that continues on it, or how does it?
No, because with the prevailing wage, it doesn't become effective until September of this year, and it's still up in the air whether or not it's even gonna stick, and it still has potential to be amended and so on and so forth. But if you have your 6B application in, or your incentive application in to the county, before that effective date in September, or if you have an existing incentive, you're grandfathered in, and the prevailing wage will not apply to those incentive properties.
My guess is they'll be more likely to streamline it if you're compliant, and chances are, I'm assuming it's going to be just the moving company and a little bit of storage probably.
Exactly.
Yes, that probably isn't an issue for your.
Yeah, so we'll have our trucks there,
Yeah.
and then there's some storage in the back for customer items, and then some admin offices up front, our estimators and our managers and quality control people.
Excellent.
Welcome to Tinley Park.
Yeah,
Love
we're glad to have you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 6B for a 2 Men and a Truck for the next board meeting, June 5th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, discuss Aries 6B, Sustainable Emergency Relief Reclassification Request.
So we're back in Duvan Drive. Aries is a company that has been in Tinley Park since 1988, and they actually provide 40 jobs currently. And they're asking for what's called a 6B Sustainable Emergency Relief. I have not done one of these before, but this is one where if they can show a substantial burden to their business, that they'd be interested in actually leaving if they cannot get this. This one caught my attention though because the average wage is $48 an hour for 54,000 man hours, and 32 of the 40 are actually making $82,000 a year, and it's 95% local union labor. So these are all a bunch of local guys that have been here for quite some time, and like was mentioned earlier, the taxes are just getting a little bit out of control. And so they have applied for this. They've requested that we go ahead and give them the green light to take it to Cook County to see if they can get this through. But from my point of view, as economic development wise, I think those are really good jobs, and I would hate to lose them, especially again, Duvan Drive's a tough area, and I don't want to see more vacancies.
Neither do we, Patrick. This looks great, except for their poor tax bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it 54,000 if you
50.
double it?
This
That's
is just
half a bill.
ugly.
Yeah.
We've already looked at property outside of
Hi.
the town areas and park area. We've already looked at property outside of the town park area in Will County. It's
Indiana.
amazing what we can-
Save.
What we can get.
So you're the representative from Aries, obviously?
Correct.
Well, thanks for being here for all those years, man,
Yeah.
and paying your employees well.
Yep. We love our area, you know what I mean, but, you know, it's just the taxes are getting totally out of control. We looked at, we presently, we're using some of Eckstein's space next door. And, we were looking at just trying to increase our square footage, and we were shocked when we looked at what we can pay in Will County. So,
Pat, have you worked with them to look at the different, because I don't know how the emergency incentive thing you're talking about works either.
Yeah, it was something
I
that
mean,
we.
is there any normal avenues you could take on a 6B or no?
Not currently. They have to make an investment, and the tax incentive would only be on the investment that was made. It'd be on the improvements. To get this one, they created this, in my opinion, to help out the people that have been there for a really long time.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
couldn't really expand where they're at, and if you look at their footprint, they can't really expand. So they're not going to get a savings, but it is really to help out the mom and pops and the locals.
And keep them here?
Yeah,
and-
it's a total retention incentive. And there also is an expiration date on this. It's only good, I think, until like November that people can even apply. And then it's going to
Agreed.
expire.
It is ugly. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the approval of Hillman Company's request to the 6B SER reclassification.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to receive comments from the public. Seeing that there are none, we'd like to adjourn the Economic Development and Marketing Committee meeting for this evening. Thank you.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming. I wasn't too long. 25 minutes. Wow, that's, isn't that so? See that? That's what blows my mind.